I want you to talk a little bit more about the content marketing piece as well.
Yeah.
Keep the website fresh and have expectations for it. Are really seeing some fantastic results.
Yeah, I would say, I think, you mentioned cold calls and as we do sales coaching, sales training with different teams, et cetera, we talk about that because their cold calls haven't gone away, but I think they're not so cold anymore. And that's really the reason for that, is that there's so much access to information. So once we know, a company understands who their best fit customers is, or even from the standpoint of look, we have a capability, we have a machine that does this. Let's go out and find specific customers, specific prospects who need that capability. Then the call is not so cold. It's you've identified you can get to the information online, and with some research as to what companies have that need, what size are they, who their contacts are, et cetera. And now you're making a a fairly well-informed call, that initial call, and you have I think a pretty good value proposition to start from, rather than just dialing it up and saying, hey, you probably need what we have. I think. So I think that, yeah, I would agree with you that that's really changed a lot.
Yeah, needs there. It's just refining and defining and making sure that you get the right application and being a true solutions architect, right?
Yeah, you mentioned some of the software. I think one of the things that we've seen with our clients is that those that have invested even just a little bit in a kind of a basic CRM, customer relationship management tool, that they're able to use that and kind of automate that end of the process, so that their sales team isn't spending time doing data entry. And if somebody is not able to come into work for a few days or a week, or takes a vacation, that information's there ready to access, no matter who's at the office. And so those CRM systems, again, used properly and used consistently, have really helped, I think, sales teams be able to dive a little bit deeper, do more research on the customers or prospects they're going to look at, and really have more meaningful interactions with those that they might want to do business with.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I think it's, this is sort of the exciting part, right? When, as we get thrust into technology because of the, inability to do the face-to-face stuff, it's, the technology companies are going to integrate CRM into these other technologies faster, better, eliminate all those obstacles that made them kind of clunky in the past, the double entries and the things that really kept them from being fully utilized. So I look forward to seeing what those companies of the future, or the ones of the present, how they expand product lines to make this simpler and more efficient.
Yeah.
I know we look forward to the day when we can get back to face, but I think you're always going to see now this new combination of how we reach out and interact with customers.
I think part of driving that, and it's been happening for the past handful of years anyway. And again, I think that the pandemic accelerated it. But there's a lot of companies, the buyers are younger folks. They're people in the earlier stages of their careers, and they're very comfortable with technology. They're probably less comfortable with, at times, face-to-face or phone calls. And so for them, to be able to do the research online, see what your company's about, they might Google some things that are related to a particular capability or product aspect, and they're going to be reading about the results that they get back from their search. Hopefully are going to come from your company, because you've got content that you put up online, either on your website or in your social media posts, etc., white papers, etc., and even videos. And in those companies that are doing that, getting that information out there, are the ones that I think are seeing, from our experience, more and more activity, because the buyers are running into that content, they're spending some time with it, and then they're making a decision, narrowing down their choices to just a couple, to be honest, and then making a call to say, all right, you guys look like you do exactly what we need. Let's talk, delivery dates. Let's talk price. Let's get close to the deal here. And so I think it's, it hasn't. I don't think it's shortened the lead time, but I think it's shortened the amount of sales time that you might have with a particular prospect, et cetera. And that's where I think that, many salespeople have to get really comfortable with how do they use the technology, how do they work with the marketing department to get the content up, et cetera.
Yep. For the business owner, embrace the change,
Right.
invest wisely. And, as we kind of kick this thing off, it's critical for sales and marketing to be a cohesive unit that are working together and understand what those triggers are, and using the tools to refine that, and again, warm up those leads at the beginning, and shortening the sales cycle is, I'm sure, not something any business owner would argue against, especially if it's an informed sale, and you have the right to provide, or the ability to provide, a solution that really fits.
Yeah, I think, as a piece of that, what's interesting is that, customer service has always been a part of, in some fashion, the sales function, whether it's a separate department or it's defined as an inside sales lead, et cetera, a sales lead, et cetera. But the ability to, if you've got product online, you have some version of an e-commerce function in your website, et cetera. And then they're able to support that with some form of fairly quick customer response. And again, I think the expectation these days, particularly from younger buyers, is that it needs to be pretty quick, because they've done their research. Now they're ready to buy, or at least get close to a decision. So when they're sending a request for some more information, or even if they send a quote over, they're looking for a response back fairly quickly, and certainly acknowledgement that you've received their request and that you're working on it, or what that timeline is going to be. So that ability for you to have some form of a chat function on your website, to be able to answer questions, or if somebody's like, "Oh, I'm loading my specs in here and I have a question," somebody there to be able to get back to that person in fairly real time, I think is really essential. And again, that's likely maybe not your lead dogs in the sales team, but probably an internal sales role, customer service role that should be an important part of your team.
Agree. So as fast as live chat, and a worst
Yeah.
case scenario, make sure someone's owns that inbox and is responding as quick as they can.
Yeah. I was wondering what you what you think about, there's these online e-commerce sites, and again, a lot of companies, whether they have, custom, or job shop, products to sell, how those online platforms have, what they've done to impact channel sales, and how that's changed that dynamic a bit.
I think, what, again, there's the scare of the change, but then if you really embrace, what can happen on the back end of it, is it's putting a lot more control into, the initiating business here, or the one that's trying to drive the sales, because you don't have to rely on the reseller networks and the manufacturers reps as much, when you can create more efficiently that one-to-one contact with your potential buyer. So it's, improved margins, it's direct control over what's happening, getting control back where you've lost it, and the sheer geographic expansion of how we can build our sales forces out is really becoming limitless. So again, that face-to-face contact, and those interactions, especially depending on the complexity of what you're selling and site visits, but that's deeper into the funnel, right? And controlling the top in an efficient, technology-driven way that still can be very personal. I think that's one thing we've all
Yeah,
learned
I would
about
agree.
Zoom and some of the new tools, is that, we're getting by, and we're doing it a lot better than I think any of us would have expected at the beginning of this.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Yeah, it's really, for anybody who's, I guess, at the early stages of their career, and even those at mid-career points, I think it's a really exciting time. There's the tools, and the digital platforms that are available, really give you an amazing amount of flexibility. They give you just phenomenal background information to prepare for a sales call or a prospecting call. You really have more than you've ever had right at your fingertips if you're able to take it and really embrace it and get your sales team up to speed on it.
Yeah. Well, Mike, this has been a fascinating conversation. I hope it's
Yeah, it's been fun, Terry. I appreciate it.
useful to our viewers as well. And we'll extend these topics out into the future and see where it goes from here.
All right, sounds great. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.